You're listening to the Beretta Brothers, two of us. For best results, use both ears.
All right, listen. I've got something really cool to show you. So why don't we do...
Wait. You want me to listen to something you're going to show me?
Yeah. Listen, I want you to hear and see something very special. But why don't we do the shameless plugs first? Get that out of the way.
Okay, I'll go first.
Go.
Go to GeneBeretta.com. Done.
Go to the BerettaBrothers.com. Enough.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the coolest thing. We've got a friend of the show who's an artist named Jared Butcher. He's the Gold Coast of Australia. And you might remember back to our episode with our Muppet fan artists. And during the course of that episode, I drew this picture here. I did a little sketch, and we gave it away, right?
And the nose was perfect.
Accurate. Mm-hmm. So I got a message from Jared Butcher, and he said, "Do you mind if I do something with that?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I'm leaving that part out. But said, "Sure, go ahead." And so a couple weeks later, he sent me a picture of this, which I have since received in the mail. Hey, how you doing?
Aww.
Isn't that the coolest thing? I don't know how to puppeteer him, but
that's
look
awesome.
at that. I think he did an even better job of capturing you because he brought the lids down a little bit more.
I like the red mustache and the white beard.
Yeah, exactly. He got that detail correct.
And the nose is accurate.
Of course. And then he put Pepe on the shirt instead of my character.
That's amazing.
Isn't that great? Look at it. It's beautifully made. He's got the Henson stitch and everything, you know?
Wow.
I know.
Very cool. Thanks.
So
That's
cool.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Look him up. His name is Jared, Jarrod, Butcher, Boutcher. Here's a little comparison for you.
Jared the Butcher.
Isn't that cool?
That's so great. How nice. What a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and he sent it to me for free.
So nice.
He said it's yours. So I own a drawing that I'm going to send out to him. And I'm going to that's going to be Billy Puppet's spot.
Wow, that's very cool.
I couldn't wait to show it to you.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah.
All right. So that said, we have a Muppet fan waiting in the wings. Do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, well, more than a Muppet fan. This is a guy that has had an incredible influence on the gaming world. I know a lot of people are going to be excited to watch. We're going to talk about all kinds of things with him because he started at a very young age with inspirations of doing and being a part of this world that basically Gene and I know nothing about, really. But
we're going to try to sound intelligent.
Yeah, I've had the fortunate opportunity to do a couple things with him with the Game Awards, which he created. Holy mackerel. This is like the biggest awards anywhere in viewership. And he's a journalist. He's just in the gaming and the video world, and he's just really smart and really sweet and a good guy. And so let's just bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Keighley.
Ta-da!
Bravo!
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me in. I've been such a fan. I've watched a few episodes of what you guys have been doing. And when you asked me, Bill, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so honored. It's like to follow, Bobby and Ricky and Frank and Dave and everyone. You've had an amazing guest list. So thank you for asking me on.
And it continues. Thank you.
Absolutely. My son, Jackson is a huge fan of yours. Like it's Reggie and you. Like that's the thing, right? So he kept saying, why don't you have Jeff on? And then Gene's son Ben, huge gaming fan, we just figured, this is we have to do this because there's so many people out there that would love to hear about this, obviously, because it's such a huge thing in our world, and also to hear, I think, your story, because it's really interesting. And I don't know how many people or how often you get to do interviews and people know about you, maybe in your world, but in the Muppet world. And it'd be nice, I think, to share that if you're okay with it.
I'm happy to talk about it. And again, I'm huge fans of you guys, and it's been so fun for me to grow up in gaming and see all these worlds come together, and fun to collaborate with you on a bunch of things over the years. And it's like all my childhood fantasies have somehow like come together now and moshed together in these crazy ways. So it's I'm having the time of my life doing this stuff, and especially in a year where the world has changed so much. It's games, I think, have become even more important to people in 2020. So I'm honored to kind of have this opportunity to like celebrate games and bring like Hollywood and gaming and music together. And that's one of the things I really focus on, is like doing, the crazy unexpected things, like, the thing we did last year with the Muppets. The past 2 years, we had like amazing Muppet moments at the show, and you're to thank for helping make that happen, Bill. So thank you.
Well, I don't know about that, but you thought about reaching out, and we connected, and I don't like you that much, but I thought the guy needs a little help. No, but
you did it for your son.
He really had to sell me.
Let's not jump too far ahead. Well, that's true. I did do it for my. That's right.
Exactly.
You did get us some sweet things to go see, and we should talk about that too. But but I thought, I'm curious. So you're from Canada, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up in Toronto, Canada.
Love Toronto.
And actually, one of the first Henson-y things I did was, as a kid, Fraggle Rock was filmed in Toronto. And I remember when I was, I was probably like 5 years old or something like that. I got to go to the set of Fraggle Rock.
Oh, you did?
Wow.
When I was a kid, and they did a thing where, this is already a tangent, but I grew up in Canada. And it was on the set of Fraggle Rock. They filmed at the CBC studios in Toronto. And I remember one weekend there was a science center called the Ontario Science Center, and there was like a special like Henson exhibit, and they did like a performance of Fraggle Rock there. And it was funny. So I was like, one of my first memories as a kid was like going to like the set of Fraggle Rock and being a part of it. And it's funny now that like 20, 30 years later, actually Karen Prowl, who was Red Fraggle, I know pretty well because she actually works at a game company, and I've done a lot of stuff with her over the years. So it's funny, like it's all kind of come together in this crazy way. But yes, I grew up in Toronto. Did your
parents have connection? Oh, sorry,
Gene. I know. I just want to say Karen's amazing.
Karen's the best, and she's worked at Valve she's an animator on Portal and Left 4 Dead, and I just worked with her on the new Half-Life Alyx game, and she's incredible. But Gene, my parents are in the film business, and still do IMAX stuff. That was founded in Toronto. So they're sort of in the production world, and I think somehow I got like through some connection, I got to go down and sort of see the set, and I sort of just remember being there and just being fascinated about sort of how this stuff was filmed, right? And that was just like the amazing aspect of it all. And it just happened to be I don't know why you may know why they did Fraggle Rock in Toronto, but did they do other Muppet stuff up there? Or that was just
sure, they did. Really? Santa Claus Switch, I think, was done there. Jim had a relationship with, I guess, I'm not sure exactly who, but several things over the years. I even did
Brats of the Lost Nebula.
Nebula, that was done there.
Oh, I had no idea. Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Love Toronto. Such a great city. A lot of nice Italians over there.
Very
a lot of
Italians.
And I was growing up, it was like, everyone just played games on their computers, and it was just like, like the internet was, I think, and I don't know if this is actually factually true, but like it felt like the internet was like early up in Canada, and it's like everyone was connected, and it was just like when I was a kid, my life was sort of like games. I loved movies, music, and just like love all the Henson-y stuff, and that Fraggle Rock thing was like a formative thing that was part of my life, and then never thought it would ever connect back in any way, and then here we are. So it's been amazing.
Well, look, can I ask you something? So, I mean, your dad was more. I mean, your dad just wasn't involved in IMAX. He was. Your dad was almost like is IMAX, isn't he?
well, there are a lot of people in the early days of IMAX that were involved in it, but yeah, it was, 5-6 people founded it in Canada. And yeah, he was one of the first filmmakers that made films for it in the 1970s. Like when I was 6 months old, my mother flew with me to Hawaii when he was doing a movie called Nomads of the Deep about the whales. And yeah, he was I think the third IMAX film he produced or directed. And yeah, so he was a filmmaker and then moved into kind of the post-production aspect of it. And even now still works with filmmakers. Just finished up Tenet with Chris Nolan and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, still very active in kind of the movie world. But when I was a kid, I never really dreamed of like going to the movies. It was like games. As a young age, I just got connected with this world of interactivity and playing on my Nintendo and all these other things. And I always kind of saw this as like the next thing. And it was just like a natural thing. It wasn't something where it was calculated. It was just like, these games are so immersive and rich. And I remember like even as a kid, one of the first games I played and loved was a game based on Willow that, Lucasfilm was doing, because George Lucas had a really early interest in sort of gaming and computers. And he had built this company named LucasArts that was inside of Lucasfilm. So that was one of the first games I played, which was Willow. So that was a connection. And it was, again, it's funny how these things all kind of connect.
So did you have a lot of like, I mean, having parents that were in the entertainment world, and did you, so computers and like, did you guys have like all the new cool stuff growing up? Like I was saying to Gene when we were kids, our uncle, and our, well, they're like our brothers and sisters, but they're like very close friends of the family. They always had the cool stuff, right? They always got the Pong. So we'd go play Pong, or, they were always like ahead. Were you in that kind of household where you had all the new cool stuff?
Yeah, my parents were, my mother especially was like very computer forward. Like I remember going to have like typing lessons when I was like a kid to like, go to some lady's house, computer lessons almost, right? And it was like learning how to do a computer. My mom was doing a lot of kind of book work for IMAX, like on, accounting software and computers. So I was around them, and my brother and I would often play computer games. My parents were like very supportive of like having technology around us, right, when I was young. And I think that definitely helped out, and, would buy me the game consoles when I wanted them and things like that. And they were expensive in Canada. So I definitely like had technology around me, and that, certainly was, what helped me build my career, because I've never really had a job in my life, really. Like I started writing about games when I was 13 years old, and that was all just like, Cameron Crowe, like Almost Famous story. I was kind of like just like writing about games at home on my computer, and it's just like all snowballed from there, and that's what I've done for my entire life.
Well, you say it just snowballed. So like how? Like what did you do? You took the initiative to you thought, I want to write about this game and I want to post it? Like it was that?
Yeah, it was, to summarize it, I loved the adventure.
You're like, what did you say, 13, 14?
Yeah, 13. Yeah, I loved playing computer games. There's a company named Sierra Online that did games. They were called like King's Quest and Space Quest and Leisure Suit Larry. And they were these sort of like story-based games. And I shouldn't be playing Leisure Suit Larry, but I was 13 years old and I somehow figured out a way to do it. But I wrote them a letter in the mail and said, I love your games. I'm curious how you make them. And, you never expect ever to hear back. But then one day I got a letter back from them in the mail, like, showed up in the, in the mailbox. And I opened it up and they're like, hey, Jeff, thanks for your letter. We love your enthusiasm for our games. Do you want to help us beta test some of our upcoming games? And become a volunteer tester of like early pre-release versions. So of course, you're like, amazing. I'm in 6th grade or something. Right. So then I started getting early versions of those games. And then because I was able to play them early, I was on the like CompuServe and Prodigy and some of the early internet, pre World Wide Web stuff. So I would be able to post these hints and tips for the games for people when they played them, because I had already, kind of had advanced versions of them. So I did that. And then one day an editor of a magazine started reading all my stuff on this internet. And it's like that old New Yorker cartoon where you see a dog, and the tagline is like, on the internet, no one knows you're a dog. And the idea is that on the internet, no one knew I was a 13-year-old kid. So we were just reading this stuff saying, wow, this guy really seems to know a lot about games. Maybe he'd like to write for our magazine. So wrote me an email and said, do you want to write about games? And and then it sort of just built from there. And I did that all through high school. I came down to LA to go to USC, and all through college, like I did the same thing. I was just like writing about video games for, originally gaming magazines, and then it grew to Entertainment Week magazine, where I wrote like all the gaming stuff for 8 or 9 years there. But yeah, that was my background, very much as like a behind the scenes journalist, not an on camera person at all.
That's amazing.
So yeah. How did you graduate over then? What was your first job in front of a camera?
Yeah, as a host, how did you
started? There's a Canadian TV show about video games called Electric Playground in the late 90s, and one day
I was going to ask what that was. I love that title, Electric Playground.
That was and it's still, I think, still around. They still have a YouTube channel, and the guy that created that, Victor Lucas, asked me one day at a press event. He's like, "Hey, you seem pretty good at this stuff. Would you ever think about going on camera?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't thought of." And he said, "Let's put you on camera." And then I just started doing interviews with game creators. And then that led to, there was a network called G4 that got birthed here in the States, and Tech TV. So I started then being asked to do things there. And then after two years there, MTV and Spike TV came to me and said, "Hey, we love what you're doing on G4. We want to do more stuff here at Viacom with games." So then that turned into that, and I did that for about a decade. So yeah, I've been like extraordinarily lucky that. And
you're still only 14.
Starting to get some gray hair. I don't know if I can still spell that, but yeah, it's I am.
Yeah, but like, how old were you when you were like the host doing these Spike TV specials?
I was right out of college, I think. So it was probably like early 20s. I started I was like early 2000s. Yeah. So I mean, I always say to people that I've kind of grown up with the gaming industry, and when I just needed it to be better than a summer job in high school, I could make a couple $100 writing a review of a game, and that was like incredible. And then after college, I'm like, well, I actually kind of figure out, is this my career or not? And I was going to go to law school. Like I was sort of like, the gaming thing was fun. Now I got to figure out what my career is. Yeah. And it just started to grow and grow and grow. And yeah, now I'm honored to do what I do in the gaming industry. Like it's never been boring, because games are at this cool intersection of technology and entertainment, and they always get better, right? There's always like something new happening. The graphics are better. There's a new system. So I'm just like constantly excited about where games are going. So I've never really slowed down.
Right. Do you know what you're making me think about now that you're older? Yeah. Are you different really types old. Now that you're
really old,
counting your years as blessings, are there games that appeal to you more at an older age? Do you think games are kind of a generational divide, or, people our age are looking at more story-based maybe versus shooters or things like that?
No, I think it's a great point, Gene. Like as I get older, even like I used to play a lot of really competitive games and multiplayer games. Like my brother was a big Madden player, and I would play a lot of, the Call of Duties and the action games. And now I just love story games. Like sure, you want some challenge, but you just want to, you want a world that you can manipulate and be a part of and interact with, but you don't necessarily want to be like brutally challenged, right? Where it's like game over constantly and game over. And I think I just love the worlds now. And I think, there's they're different games for different people. And a lot of my friends that, played games in college, life gets in the way, right? It's like, you get married, have some kids, you don't have the job, you just don't have the time to play games anymore. And I think a lot about that, like how you lose people that, it's like, oh, games were fun, I did those 20 years ago. And now, here are people, in their 30s, 40s that like still play games and love to interact with them, but they might play on their phone, or they might play with their kids, right? It's like play Fortnite with their kids, and that's another way to connect into it. So yeah, I think like the definition of a game is super broad now, right? You have like the very hardcore esports games, and then you have fun little things on your phone, that are still games, but it's like very different than the next Call of Duty. And my hope is that people graduate from one game to the next and don't ever leave it behind, because there is still a generational divide of people that, you know, don't play games. I mean, when I was a kid, I was always would say, like, I can't wait until the day that the president of the United States has, you know, a PlayStation in the Oval Office or something. Probably not happening right now, but, you know, maybe down the road.
So do you think, so with that idea, right? So there's different age groups, there's different styles of games. Is that what kind of sparked the idea of a game awards? Because awards shows are about different genres and right and styles. Where did the spark of we should be doing the Oscars come from?
Yeah, you know, it started when I was a young kid, and I don't know, I was probably 14 or 15 in 1994. I got to work on the first ever video game awards show, which was called Cybermania 94, and it was hosted by Leslie Nielsen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement, and live from Universal Studios Hollywood. And they brought me in because they had read some of my work and said, hey, we need someone here to help us write the show, because all the writers had no idea about gaming. So I wrote all the narration that William Shatner read throughout the show, describing all these different games. Wow. And I got to come down to the show. Just happened to be produced by a production company in Toronto, of all places.
Did you write it with the same rhythms? Then the men would go.
You can actually watch it on YouTube, and it's hilarious to hear William Shatner read like a description of Doom. It's like, you're in the haunted corridor, and it's like it was trippy. And I, again, like as a kid, you're like, wow, this is insane. But I got to come down to that ceremony, and like it was insane. And like see celebrities celebrating this industry, and my dad came down with me, obviously, because I was a kid. And it was so powerful to feel like the energy in this room of gaming is this next thing. So I always carried that forward in my head of like, wow, I think there needs to be, as you said, Bill, like an Oscars for gaming. What is the equivalent of that? And, you know, my parents are both members of the Academy for, you know, the Oscars. So I was always sort of thinking about that for gaming, and there was no equivalent of that. So yeah, I worked on a bunch of award shows for games on television at G4 and at Spike. There was something called the Video Game Awards. So I kind of learned the world of award shows for many years on cable TV. And then in 2014, with the rise of like Twitch and YouTube, I started saying, you know, maybe TV isn't what this is all about. It's like, you know, streaming is the future of this. So I'm like, let's build our own thing. And I kind of rolled up all the money I had made over the years. You know,
you did it yourself. You produced it yourself, right? You put
I financed it myself, and just sort of said like, hey, instead of buying a house or something, I'm just gonna like, you know, invest in making this award show, and asked all the game companies to support me in it. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I own it 100%. It's my show. I host it, I produce it, and it's kind of a crazy. It's an incredible opportunity. And I've, you know, always. When I was growing up, I, you know, always admired like Dick Clark and how he would have his shows and he would host them and put them all together. And that was kind of, you know, what it's so important to me that this industry gets the respect it deserves. Because I still think in, you know, traditional Hollywood circles, people really don't understand gaming, right? And like, you know, maybe it's like their kids play or someone else, but it's, you know, for so long it was like there was the Oscars and there was the Emmys, and gaming, does that even deserve an award show? And, you know, my view now is like it should be right alongside of like the Oscars, the Grammys, the Tonys, the Game Awards. And that was always my hope, is we could create something that is at that stature, because this industry is just as big as the other ones.
Yeah. How much do you think gaming itself has played the role in younger viewers making that big transition from traditional TV viewing to watching most of their programming on YouTube or other streaming services?
Oh, it's totally changed everything. Like the first year we did the Game Awards, you know, I would walk into a room and talk to people at the show, and they're like, "What? This is on TV? How does that work?" And then what we started to see was we'd see all these photos on Instagram of kids sitting at home watching the show on their big television, and it's like, well, how are they doing that? It's like, oh, well, because they're just using their Apple TV or Twitch or whatever. And it's like, it's on their television, but it was just through streaming. And it was this thing, as you said, it's just like a whole different mindset of how people consume this content. And now it's like we watch Netflix on our TV. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's the same content, looks the same. And that was this huge shift that meant, hey, I could actually make the show I want to make and distribute it through these systems versus having to go through like a traditional TV network where, you guys know it better than I do. It's like you have people who want to give notes and give you thoughts on like what the show should be or shouldn't be. Right. And that was always kind of a challenge in the TV world because a lot of these television executives just didn't really understand the gaming space, and they knew there was something there and they wanted to support it, but they have to give their point of view. And what's great about Game Awards is I just kind of make the show I want to make now. And it's like, we like, if I want to go do something with the Muppets, I'm like, cool, let's go do it. And I don't have to sell it to anyone or, it's like, yep, like, hey, Bill, if you're in, let's go.
Well, but that was what was so cool is that, so you're already doing this for 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I never heard of it. I never watched it. Right. And to go there and to experience that audience there and how excited they are, and to think about how many millions of people are watching this is just, I had no clue. I had no idea.
Most people don't. It's like,
but they do. I think, right? I mean, how many people did you have watching this last?
Yeah, we had almost like 50 million people globally, and the thing that has also been blowing me away is just how global it is, right? Like in China and in India and all these places around the world, they're watching it. And I used to be a television producer, and you think about your domestic TV rating, and that's what everything's based on. It's like how many houses in America are watching, and now it's like, I'm thinking about the people in India and China and Vietnam, and they all watch it and they love it and they talk online. It's so global now. That's the thing that's really amazed me is, the energy of 7,000 people in the audience and also like real fans, right? Like what's cool about our show is that it's not just industry folks. It's like the fans in the audience. And Bill, when you're there, there's like a real energy to the room, which you don't get at some of these other award shows. So it's been, it's been an amazing experience for me. And, to hear someone like you that I have tremendous respect for say, and even like the first year we did a bunch of stuff with Muppets. Everyone was walking around. So like, wow, this is cool. Like we want to keep doing it. This is fun. And it's like, that's, I said for years, it's like, I don't understand why the Muppets aren't hosting the Oscars or something. And it's like, we're doing these things and it's just like, they're so great.
I have to tell you what I admire about you is that, and I think a lot of people strive for this, but I think when you could pursue something that you love. You clearly love this industry since you were a young guy. Yeah. And the fact that you're doing something and that's affecting so many people, but that you love, it's in you. This is something you admire yourself and you love. That's what makes it so good and why it comes across, I think, so well, is because you're the guy behind it that loves it, right? That makes a big difference.
I think I appreciate that. And I think you're right that there's a sense of authorship that it's kind of, my voice, I'm curating the show, I'm producing it, I'm hosting it. And often with some of these award shows, it's like, it's often so done by committee, right? And there's so many people that have to figure things out. And it's like, it's different, right? And I think, you've identified something I think is unique about our show and why it potentially works for this audience versus some of these other shows where it's, there's such a format to it. And like the Oscars, it's so hard to change anything about it, right? Because there's so much history of how they've done things and so many people, with opinions, how it's done. And like, it's like the Muppets should host the Oscars, but it's like there got to be 14 people that all agree to that. And it's like, for me, I'm like, hey, let's do something fun. Like last year, even it was just like, oh, cool. Like, let's do something with Bunsen and Beaker. And then you got involved and let's add this goose. And then you were like, you were,
can I tell you something? I completely forgot. I forgot. I have to tell you, like we've been talking about, like we talked about that game today and that meeting I had. You just reminded me, I completely forgot that I did the goose. Like there was a puppet goose. I was just thinking about the video game portion of it. And I honestly didn't. You just seriously, that's how bad my mind is.
That was the highlight. I
completely forgot that we added the goose in there, and it was just out because you were so easy to work with and so collaborative.
Yeah,
that we got to do that.
Oh, and that piece, like again, remember last year the LA Times headline was sort of like the show was great, but everyone wants
Oh my
Beaker
God.
title Goose Game, and it was just like became this phenomenon. And we had done a fun thing with you the year before with Pepe and Ninja, which I was like, that was another one where I was like, let's do something fun with the Muppets, and I had just seen the Amazing Hollywood Bowl show on that year, and I was like,
I didn't know Ninja. I don't know who Ninja was.
But I was like, no, and I said the Ninja, he was the biggest thing on the internet, and
Jackson was like, Ninja.
Yeah, I know, and he did the thing where he played like Fortnite with Drake, and everyone was like, he's he's on Ellen doing all this stuff, and I remember saying to him, it's like, hey, what if he did something with the Muppets? He's like, oh, I'm totally in. It sounds amazing. And then we talked to you guys about it, and that all came together with Pepe as just a presenter moment.
Right.
And then last year I was like, we got it. I love the Muppets so much. We've got to do something. And then I was like, let's do something with Bunsen and Beaker, and maybe with this Untitled Goose Game, which is this kind of indie game, which was a phenomenon last year where you're a goose walking around annoying people. And that was really fun to see how that evolved, because we were like, maybe there's something here. And then you got involved, and we were like, maybe we do something with a goose. And then there was the Creature Shop. I think there was like a mother goose from some other.
They pulled a goose out of there.
And you're like, we can figure this out and make it a goose. And then, we were like, what do we do? And I think you came in and said, hey, maybe I'll play the goose. And like that whole, if you go back and watch that clip, it's just so fun with the choreography of all the moments. And, people don't realize there were 6 or 7 of you guys all below there figuring out,
I swear I forgot about I swear the goose. The goose was a puppet. Completely.
It was amazing. And it was just like, it's so fun. And that's where my hat is off to you from a performance perspective, because just the timing of that and the coordination, just the looks of the Muppets at each other, like it's so fun to watch. And it's one of my favorite moments from the show last year, because it really was like a bit that just like was incredible. And then it went so viral afterwards, everyone went nuts for it.
And your crew too, we should just mention, your crew was really great. They were, I remember the coordination that had to happen and how quickly, and that's how award shows are. But you really have a great team. Whoever you pulled together these people.
We have the best people in the business that have produced, worked on the Oscars and all these other shows. And that's why we work with the most amazing folks in the world to bring that show to life. And it's a huge honor for me. You nailed it. It's like, I feel like I've never really worked a day in my life. Like, I'm just so honored to get to do this, and then get to do fun things like work with you guys and come up with these ideas and actually make them happen. It's like I'm in the chocolate factory, just like constantly amazed that I get to do this. And it's like, even this year, it's like we don't want to say too much, but we're already working on like something fun this year. And I think people also don't realize that it takes months and months to pull these things together. I think that's one of the reasons I think, we enjoy what we do. And is like, we spend all year thinking about this. And sometimes these shows get kind of crashed together in like the final couple days and like, let's just figure it out. And, like this, it's like the thing we're doing this year, like we've been working on for a long time. So I'm excited. Hopefully it all happens. Who knows this year.
Let's not say anything yet, but we have a couple, we have a little surprise for you actually, that we thought we might, if you like surprises.
I'm down for a Beretta surprise. Yeah, let's do it.
We have a couple.
You're going to get a double dose of Beretta surprise.
It's a double dose.
Oh, okay. Hello, what's up, Jackson? How you doing? There's
Jackson and Ben.
Yo.
Thanks for booking me on the show, Jackson.
Hello.
Oh, look at you guys. You got your Fortnite up there, Ben?
Yeah. Just got it.
Look at him. He's all gamered up.
Is that who's a Spider-Man? Who you got back there?